This is the B2B Store WhatsApp Insight webinar. Appreciate everyone coming on. We've got a few people still. The numbers are going up as we're getting past past, but we'll make a little bit of a start now. And as people join, we're going to send recordings and all sort of collateral out afterwards anyway. So hopefully that'll be okay, and we'll catch everyone that's there. So as you know, I mean, we've focusing this webinar on how WhatsApp is driving B2B growth. Our insight comes from the fact that we are a B2B specialist WhatsApp business API provider. A lot of those customers that we've got are in the food and drink wholesale sector, but we do work with other people outside of B2B. So the insight that we've got looking at what our customers are doing is something that's very specific to B2B, and there's not many WhatsApp providers who are specializing in the way that we are. So as part of the session we'll look at first of all, a quick recap of what the WhatsApp landscape is, which Rob, our CEO, will do for us. We'll then go through the sort of use cases that people are using WhatsApp for in B2B before we go into the insights and the secrets of getting higher engagement, what's working, what's not. And finally, we'll round it off by kind of looking at the future WhatsApp developments and answering a few of your questions as well. Because I think that what we're seeing now in 2025 isn't necessarily where WhatsApp will stand and stop. And I think certainly in the UK, there'll be a lot of changes and these will affect B2B. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Rob and he'll give you a bit of an overview of what's going on in WhatsApp right now.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning, everybody. So yes, as Chris said, I'm just going to provide an overview of the WhatsApp landscape, some of the key insights that we've gleaned over the last couple of years, and then Chris is going to delve deeper into our actual report afterwards. So fairly important stat, first of all, is, or the first thing to consider is how big is WhatsApp? Obviously, it was originally a B2C play from a WhatsApp perspective, and it launched the business API and business services a few years ago, and it's really now starting to gain traction. So the three stats that I tend to refer to, first of all, how many people are actually using WhatsApp? I presented earlier this week at a conference that may have been around 100 people. And I asked the question, how many people in the audience are not using WhatsApp? And not one person put their hand up. And that's the first time that has ever happened. So clearly that is quite an important statistic. Secondly is the amount of interaction WhatsApp messages enjoy, especially when you compare that to email. Email interaction rates may be 20%, 30%, 40% on a really good day in B2B. We're seeing 75% interaction rates with our WhatsApp messages in the B2B space. And then the final stat is the speed in which people are interacting with WhatsApp. And we're seeing 25% of WhatsApp messages are read within 1 hour. So compared to email, where we're seeing maybe 20, 25% interaction over time, we're seeing that sort of interaction with WhatsApp in just around 60 minutes. Chris, next slide. Thanks. So why not use the free versions of WhatsApp? There are only two ways to send WhatsApp messages at scale with the free versions, and that is to send a broadcast or it's to send a group message. Both have very or quite big limitations when used in a business context. If you send by broadcast, you're sending from a private phone, 150 people maximum. It's a two-way messaging experience, so you can theoretically have 250 responses coming back to that phone that you've sent it from. If you're sending to 1,000 people, obviously, you're going to have potentially 1,000 messages come back on that phone. So when sending in scale or at scale, it's clearly there's a major limitation. Or you could send using groups. With groups, the limitation is you can send up to 1,000 people. But if somebody was to make a respond in a negative way, everybody sees that response. You also have GDPR concerns in so much as everybody can see everybody else's mobile number. And if somebody responds to that group message at 2 o'clock in the morning, everybody's going to get pinged. So both broadcast and groups, whilst they do provide a mechanism to send at scale, do have limitations. So this slide is really talking about the WhatsApp landscape. The row across the top is really describing the basic version of WhatsApp. It sends content over the internet. It allows you to do voice and video calls. And as I mentioned, you can send content at scale with broadcasts or group functionality. And at the bottom, we have the three main versions of WhatsApp. WhatsApp Messenger is the version that most people, or nearly everybody, is now using. Then we have, rather confusingly, two business versions of WhatsApp. WhatsApp Business App on the bottom right, and then the WhatsApp Business API. The WhatsApp Business App is used largely by employees who often want to segregate or are told to segregate business messaging from their private WhatsApp Messenger app. Then what we are working with is the WhatsApp Business API. So what is the API? The API is effectively the mechanism that WhatsApp has used or is using to monetize itself. The principal advantage of it is you can send messages to as many individuals who are following your channel as you want. If you want to send to 100,000 people, it will create 1,000 private messages. There are three different types of message in WhatsApp Business API world. There's customer service, there's marketing, and then there's utility messaging. And they all attract a different cost from WhatsApp. In fact, the customer service messaging is now free of charge. Think of the marketing messages as where a business is sending content out to its customers using WhatsApp. Customer service WhatsApp messages is where customers are sending messages into the business. And utility messages are messages which are individual messages which are sent as a result of a trigger in the business. That might be that an order has been dispatched and an individual private message is sent to that individual to inform them via WhatsApp. And there's a whole series of anti-spamming measures that WhatsApp Business API has as they try and avoid it to become the next email. You can't, for instance, just buy a list of mobile numbers and send a WhatsApp message out because they will have report buttons or block buttons on those initial messages. And if your recipients of the message hit those buttons, the health of your WhatsApp Business account is lowered, and then the account can ultimately be banned. So this is how the services would need to be wired up. You would use a platform. Think of our service as sort of the WhatsApp or MailChimp for WhatsApp, where, and obviously there are a number of alternatives around in this space. We are, as Chris said, the only provider who is specialist from a B2B perspective. The platform is where you create the campaign, you configure the campaign, choose who you want to send the content to, and then you push that content through the Business API to followers of your business channel. And this is the basic structure of a WhatsApp Business API message. It is unmovable. You can't change this structure. It's determined or driven by the templates that are created. You have the asset at the top, the body of the message in the middle, and crucially, you have up to two calls to action at the bottom. And the main sort of ways in which these buttons are used by our customers, it might be that the button invokes a brochure, a PDF, or an interactive PDF reader, which is searchable, or it could be driving customers to an ordering platform, or it could be used to dial into sales representatives or your telesales function. And we're now seeing more sophisticated WhatsApp messaging, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but the WhatsApp has coined the term WhatsApp flows. WhatsApp flows are secondary screens that sit behind the initial WhatsApp message that has been sent. And we can configure these to do pretty much anything we want. So WhatsApp flows, for instance, could be showing live data if there was an API, and it could be used for things like event registration, or as the next slide will show, is where we're now using it to do almost frictionless ordering. So as you can see from this slide, we have the initial message on the left, the call to action on the bottom is order now, and then WhatsApp fires up. It could potentially be up to 8 screens. In this instance, it's just 2. The customer hits the quantity button, and then we can add some sophistication to it. We can put minimum or maximum order quantities. They stipulate how many products they want, hit confirm, and that order is then sent to a centralized platform such as ours, and then the business can go on to fulfill it themselves. So I think that's everything from me, Chris. I'm going to hand back to you, and you're going to delve into the report.
Yes. So this is the bones of what we've done. So just to give you an idea of how we've created the insight report. So as we've mentioned, we are a B2B specialist. We do a lot of our work within the food and drink wholesale sector. So that's working with wholesalers, buying groups and suppliers. So we're getting a full view of what works, and everyone's using WhatsApp a little bit differently. So what we've done is combined the message data, but also made sure that we're understanding the distinctions when we're looking at overall trends. We've also cross-referenced these findings with the reports that we do for some of our clients or things that we've done kind of annually to make sure that it's matching and tallying up. And there are some interesting bits and pieces that come across. So it is important that while we are seeing some B2B trends emerge, that every audience does work in a subtly different way. And that might be down to the content that's shared, who's doing it, what the frequency is, etc. But there are definitely some overall things that are coming out, which is why we thought the report would be useful at this time. As a whole of that, we think it's the most comprehensive read on B2B WhatsApp there is. I think there are others that will provide you something WhatsApp as a whole, but what we're seeing is within this sector, so it's the most tailored approach for that. I think it's also worth mentioning, so we get read receipts based on people who, when they send read receipts back, we can see who has viewed messages, whereas people who have got their settings, they turn read receipts off, we don't receive those. So actually the numbers are likely to be larger than that because we can't see that some people have engaged. Meta do say that there's a 98% message read rate across all of messages, but that's obviously through consumer stuff as well. So videos of cats and stuff like that, or messages from your mum are going to be part of that as well. But they're obviously seeing their numbers outside of those read receipts as well. So that's important to consider. So the engagement overview to begin with, I mean, first of all, as well as just the overall engagement being so high, it's the speed in which it comes. So we're seeing across the average is that 34% of messages are read within 1 hour of them being sent. Now, we think that's consistent with WhatsApp, and I think that's the power versus email. Sometimes emails build up, and yes, that can happen with WhatsApp, but ordinarily people read them. You're going to get previews, so they engage with them. So even if they don't press them straight away, you probably pulled it down and had a look to what you've got, which is where we'll come on to that, the power of the preview of the message. So what we are seeing as well is that it's a valuable place for people sending deal-centric WhatsApp campaigns. So this is particularly good for wholesalers. So we see a lot of some of our bigger customers sending messages out that are kind of like 1-day deals or 3-day deals, and they want people to engage straight away. So they don't want something that's going to sit in an inbox. So therefore, this is such a powerful number. And like I say, 34% is really strong on its own. But when you think that some people have got read receipts turned off as well, it gets even higher. Next shows you kind of 61% within a day. Now, we see those first 24 hours as being that biggest time for engagement, but the hour read actually does give you a good idea of what works and what doesn't, because you are going to get, if people want something, they're going to click on straight away. We see that represents as much as 85% of eventual reads. This means there's a huge potential to grow with your content. So this is where your headspace is, basically. If you can get people to engage early and quickly, that's normally really good. So there's a number of different things that do have an effect. So content and those message previews. So we've all got them. I guess it depends what type of smartphone you've got, but you'll get the message at the top and you can always see a little bit of copy, an image, a video, whatever it is, so you can see what's there. And that's really important to drag people in. I think it depends. I mean, I use my personal phone is a Samsung, so through Android you can pull down and see more of the message. I know on iPhone, my work phone's an iPhone, so you can see less of that. But that's really important to consider. And we've seen people who play for that space, those early characters, actually seeing a big uptick in terms of their 24-hour and their 1 hour and 24-hour read rates. Channel reputation is important, and we're going to come on to things like this. So it's when you're sending messages, the sort of things you're doing. You can't just send one message out of the blue and it work really well. You need to think about your channel reputation. You need to make sure you're keeping your audience warm at all times. And also make sure that it's not the same sort of thing that's going out all the time, but we'll touch on this as we go. Message read then within 7 days. So goes up to 72%. So we are seeing a rise in that. It's not as big as in the first 24 hours, but you will still pick people up. It does depend a little bit on what other activity you're doing, because people are receiving a lot of WhatsApp messages. The difference between this and some other things are that if you're sending a WhatsApp Business API message, it goes into the main chat section of your WhatsApp. So it can be alongside all of those messages from friends and family, group chats as well. So making sure you know when you're going to send a message is really key, because you want it to be a time when people are going to read and engage. And over time, if people are busy, it can put your message down a little bit. So if they've not read it early on, it can go off that first screen. So people are less likely then to engage with it. Beyond that, though, if you are sending more messages, you're then resurfacing your chat to the top of that list. And I think that's really important too, because that means people are remembering it's going to be there. There is a bit of an out of sight, out of mind thing that can happen with WhatsApp. So if you're resurfacing and get to the top of the chat, more people are going to read what you've done before. Again, we are seeing a bit of a difference in uses as well, though. So obviously with the wholesalers, it's predominantly pushing deals, is presented offers, whether it's trying to get people to engage there and then within a message, or it's going to get people to go online and spend or go into a depot and spend. That's really important. And we're seeing that actually through that audience and the use, you're seeing how it tilts towards a faster read rate. And then ones who are sending more kind of guidance and advice, the read rates are catching up, but they are a little bit slower. So obviously, I mean, I've touched on this already, that a massive part of this is understanding when the best time is to send a message. I said at the start, there's no hard and fast rule, as every channel does work differently. And even if you have got a group of retailers, one customer works differently to another slightly, because you might be in a particular region, there might be things going on, and you always need to make sure you're considering that. But broadly, we can see when the most successful times of day are. Tuesday to Friday seems to be when it's working well. Monday messages aren't bad, but it's just that Tuesday and Friday are stronger. And within those, we're seeing kind of between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. is the perfect time. So particularly because when it's going out to retailers, and it differs depending on a sector, that is a time when the rush has ended. It's before school time comes out. And you can correlate that. We work with Lumina to do the B2B Insight report. And when you're looking at that, some of the numbers that we're seeing on WhatsApp behavior correlates with when people are actually building baskets online as well. So it's not a case of you can't just send stuff out without considering. You need a strategy. We'll come on to it, but you need to have a good content plan and a good idea of what you're going to do with that. Morning sends, evening sends, they do drop off, and you can see they're going down to less than 27%. That's not what you want to be seeing. And I suppose, again, it's a time when people are busy. We're all there, and actually it doesn't matter if you're a human and you've kind of got a family you need to get sorted out, or you need to get to work. There are a lot of things that might stop you from reading quickly at those times. So it's worth having to think about that. Equally, bank holidays, weekend reads as well, they also lag. But depending on what your behavior is, they can catch up again further down the line. So here you can see that, I mean, we've got a bit of a breakdown here in terms of when those average times are working best. So seeing Fridays, Tuesdays are standing out, but Wednesday and Thursday aren't too far behind. And so Monday in 5th place isn't too far behind those either. It's interesting on the right-hand column, when you look through, you can see which times are dragging those through. Again, I would say if you've got a channel currently, you're looking to start one, or you're sending messages through a different channel, we can make sure, I would say you need to be having a look at what is working for you. And we can make sure we're doing that for you if you're working with us, to make sure we've got that analysis. We work closely with people when they ask us different things. We'll always go through and check out what seems to be the trend that's working for them. So I wouldn't take it as read, but it's always worth testing things, making sure you're mixing things up a little bit, but keep in mind those general trends. So we've talked a lot about a transactional message. So these are the ones that are a lot more wholesaler focused. This is where there is, as you can see, the example on the right-hand side, it's a sale that is time sensitive. So sometimes it can be the one we've got there is going over across 11 days, but we have some that are kind of 24-hour deals. You've got to go into depot, you need to redeem them quickly. So what works well, we're seeing predominantly, I mean, it's a great example of what we've got on that right-hand side, because if you're receiving it, and I've spoken about that message preview, if you see that image, and which actually sometimes happens if you haven't changed your settings, the image will save into your image folder. So it's another way of dragging people in, because then if someone's looking through their gallery, then they can see May sale, and they're like, oh, okay, what's this? And it makes them go back to WhatsApp to have a little bit more. So it's a really clear message who it is, what they need to do. And again, you can see there with the copy, you've got your May sale now on retailers, and May sale is now on. It's really clear. You can't fail to understand what this is. So again, it's not about, you might be sending messages, consumer WhatsApp. Of course, you don't really think about it, you just send a reply. But this, you need to be a little bit clearer on what you're doing. Think about what would make you stop, what would make you read it. What's in it for me is a big thing as well, particularly for these transactional messages. So if you've got a really big deal that you want to be talking about, you've got something that's a huge saving, make sure that is front and center of what you're doing. Obviously, we've got then looking down through further on, we've got on that message, the order online and the order via inside sales. These are some of the things that Rob touched on, that you've got the calls to action at the bottom that mean that you can follow it up. So you can have these special calls to action. And again, it's really important that once you've got that message across, that it doesn't start and end in that message. If you've got a way that people can convert a sale, make sure they're doing it. Make sure they're understanding what they need to do. And there's no ambiguity. Order online, click yes. Order via sales, click done, and it will generate a call. So it means that at the point of purchase, especially if you start sending out supplier messages, these are really strong because they are at a point of purchase. So, and we can, you can make sure you're integrating certain things into your WhatsApp messages too. So yeah, there's a lot to be said there, but real clear, concise messages is the most important thing. I can see, by the way, there are some questions coming through. We will deal with some questions afterwards. What I will do is I can see Danielle's that's there. Can the link be tracked as open rate separate to WhatsApp? So what we can do, there are certain things you can put in, whether it's using a bit.ly link or something else. You can make sure that your links are tracking what's coming through. But we will deal with some of these more specifically, but I think that's very relevant now. But yes, you can, is the short answer. It all comes down to, again, the strategy of how you're doing it, working it out, making sure you're considering all of these things when you start out. Next up then, so this is probably, I would say, only for larger audiences, because obviously some businesses are working with a smaller subsection anyway. And if you're working and you're perhaps a one depot wholesaler, for example, and you've got a subsection geographically, a lot of people may be acting in a similar way. So I wouldn't be segmenting necessarily for them. But if you are a larger wholesaler, we work with some of the national wholesalers, work with suppliers. Obviously, segmentation is really valuable. We have some wholesalers who work across retail and food service. So again, all of these things need to be taken into account. But segmentation is really valuable if you use it in the right way. You don't use it too much. So look, 11% more reads on the first day. I mean, says it in its own way, right? If you're hitting people with personalized messages, they like it, it works. But you couldn't send exclusively personalized messages. So you need to use them, targeted messages sparingly, cross-referencing across some of the things we've worked with, where we've looked at what works, what doesn't with some of our customers. 1 in every 3 message seems to work quite well. So you want to be doing 2 messages that are kind of a broad, customer-wide, everyone in the group gets these messages, and then supplement those with little segmented messages. I would also say that don't just focus on your really most engaged users, because obviously you can follow through the dashboard who is engaging most with the messages. But you've already got that engagement. Yes, you should be using those people, but your headspace is going to be going after the people who occasionally engage. So you need to work out what's working, what's going to make them engage, what's making them not engage at that time, because that's where you're going to be getting more engagement, therefore more sales, more ROI, So big things that people do, and there's different ways that you can segment. We've had some people ask for self-segmentation from users when they sign up. Some of them, when they're uploading numbers, they already know who these people are, so they'll put them in to different places. So it might be account type, geography, recency of purchase, a lot of these different things. It might be even you can drill down into the point of like, actually, this group of people are more likely to engage on a Tuesday morning, this group on a Tuesday afternoon. So you can go through all of that. I mean, we always compare what we do and what our platform offers to being kind of like the WhatsApp, the MailChimp of WhatsApp. And this is where I think that's really valuable, because you can look through that and pick out what you want to get the most value from it. We have spoken a lot about speed of messages, but actually slower reads aren't always a negative, because particularly when we're looking at, maybe it could be buying groups as well as suppliers here, because when you're sending something out, you are then looking, you might be planograms, it might be merchandising advice, it might be compliance stuff, it might be about new products. What you're doing is sharing information at a point that is going to get people to engage with you. It's increasing awareness. We're getting seeing more brand loyalty through it, but it might not be there's an action straight away. But we are seeing that people are treating it almost like we've used the term here, like a magazine. But actually, the point is that's exactly the way that you want people to be doing it for this sort of channel, because you want them to be looking at the message when there's time for them to take it on board and think, how can I action this insight, this advice into my store, into my food service outlet, wherever it may be, and make sure that I'm getting higher sales. So I think we really want to make a big distinction here, that just because some messages may be read slower, we then do a 30-day read on some channels, and that shows that 30-day read actually catches up with the 7-day read by the end of that period of time. But again, this is why it's really important to get that message right. So here again, I mean, it's clearly communicating what you're going to do. I find that multimedia content works perhaps a little bit more in this sense, that you've got videos that are going to be sharing deeper knowledge as you go. Images work as well. We talk about flows. They're really good, where people are going to be spending a little bit more time with your message. Again, it is really, really important to make sure it's clear what it's in for your audience. First of all, to be in the channel. Secondly, not to mute it. And thirdly, to actually press on the message. So be clear, be concise. Don't put too much of an intro on, because it might not be in that preview, and that might be the difference between someone clicking and eventually engaging with you and putting a sale through or acting in the way that you want them to, and not. I think it is really important that, especially on non-transactional messages, before sending anything, you need to understand what the purpose of the message is. So you need to be thinking, what do you want your audience to think? How do you want them to feel? How do you want them to act? So make sure you have that in place at first, and then move on from there. We then go on to messaging strategy. I mean, we've touched on some of this stuff already. Making sure there's a weekly rhythm is really important. Mixing up segmentation with group-wide messages. We see weekly blasts like Best Ways, Winning Wednesday, Barry Groups, Best Buys work really well. See here, look, you can achieve up to 58% 1-hour reads, 79% across first 24 hours reads. So it is really good. And again, make sure that's part of your content strategy. But flip side, make sure, well, we're going to come on to Best Way in a minute and show you how that works quite well with them. But you don't need, ordinarily, unless you've got a really strong audience and a really strong identity, making sure you have a mix of content, whether that's the type, the multimedia type that you're sending, the actual message you're sharing, how it is you want people to act, is really important, especially with the ones that are less transactional, because that's your way. You don't want to become like wallpaper. You need people to be opening messages, reading messages, and doing what you want them to act. So that's really important. We do have content resource with our team, and we do work with certain customers to make sure that we're doing that. I think that's something that's different, and where we as B2B specialists can help in that sense. And you probably wouldn't get that with a larger provider who's looking across all of everyone. Even if they did provide that content support, they probably wouldn't have that B2B knowledge. So, but you can see here, if you do kind of do too many, it does have a drop. But if you are going to be the best at what you do, then it does help you. Now, Best Way, and there's been a lot of stuff that's been shared about us working with them since 2023. They've also got more than 20,000 retailers in there, and that maintains the high open rates. So they do a lot of these messages that are saying, look, Winning Wednesday, Thriving Thursdays. You need to click on it if you want to get that right. Now, it might be that you get some people interact with every message. Some people are more inclined to do it on a Wednesday because that's when they're ordering. Some are on a Thursday. But because of the size of that and the scale, that works really well, because you are still going to get those numbers, despite the fact, and this is one of the ones, you know, it bucks the trend. And when we keep saying every audience is different, this is a prime example of that. I would say as well, I mean, worth shouting out Best Way and how they've worked it, because they work with suppliers to put supplier sponsored campaigns out there as well, because they've realized the strength of their channel, as have suppliers who started to back that too. So this is a really valuable way that they're working. as I say, strong content plan avoids message fatigue. It's also working out that you're spending it in the right sort of time. I think we would look at frequency all the way through. So if you were a smaller wholesaler with a smaller audience and you were sending multiple messages one after another, you do see a drop in that overall. So you go into less than 31% compared to an overall 34%. Unsubscribes jump up. Obviously, you don't want your message attrition. But we are seeing that 72 hours seems to be that time for certain audiences. So that means you could send, potentially 3 messages in a week. You could do, when we're talking about a pattern, you could go full group blast, middle, full group blast again. So within 7-8 days, you can be doing 3 messages and get high engagement from there. That isn't to say that you should stay too quiet for too long, because again, people assume that your channel is dormant. They don't see it. They don't have the familiarity. So when it resurfaces, if you've not done anything for 3 weeks and it resurfaces, you might get a lot of people that are saying, oh, okay, they're back. But you then do find that actually when people are going, the engagement they're making is that they leave the channel. So it is really, really important to make sure that you've got a content plan. You don't let it drop off. And we've got a few specific examples that we can't share, but we've seen internally of where, for different reasons, messaging has dropped off for a little time, and then that has a negative effect. So you've got to re-establish the channel. You've got to make sure the audience, you've got to warm them up again. So it's making sure that you're getting that right pattern when you're moving. Most successful content topics. So, I mean, this would be no surprise really from what we're talking about. Business updates, new product information, alongside that supplier promotions, the flash sales, weekly offers. The merchandising category advice works really well. Anything that builds brand loyalty. So sometimes we send some nicer messages that are softer and don't have a clear ROI for it. It's like any content. Sometimes you need to send something nice that's going to get people to engage, and a Merry Christmas message, let's say, can go a long way. Building an audience, I mean, that's one of the big things for any new users. Onboarding is important. Rob talks about GDPR, considering that, how you're going to get people onto your channel when you join it. Now, we are seeing some interesting things, and this is where we can really drill down into what works and what doesn't. There are, like I say, lots of other factors a part of it, and how you are going to bring people in. And I think if people who have worked with us will be familiar with how that works, but if you are looking to do that as well, that's a key part of what we do, and the consultancy that we offer of how to build that audience as quickly and as strongly as possible, because numbers sometimes need to translate in terms of like strong engagement too. Those numbers are a lot higher when they first go on, because there is a sense of intrigue. It is really important to make sure that when those do drop, and you will see a plateau after a few messages, and that's your normal message level you want to get at. So don't see that as unsuccessful, because anybody who does leave and is likely to leave within the first 2 or 3 messages actually aren't the audience that you want here anyway, because they were never going to engage. So that's a big part of it. We can see there are certain trends though. If you follow a high value follow-up within the next 24 hours, the first message is going, we are seeing that's a higher read rate afterwards, and a smaller attrition as well, which is obviously really, really valuable. As an example of a good WhatsApp onboarding plan, obviously warming up your audience is really important. So they're expecting a message, they know what it's about, and they don't think it's spam. So that's something that you would have to do. And again, it would have to work in different ways. Send the first welcome on a Tuesday, for example, between 2 and 3 p.m. to play this idea that you need to follow something up with high value within that 24 hours. Don't overcomplicate it. Make it clear that the message of what they are going to get from your channel is clear in that first message. The second message can drill that home. Make sure you've got something that shows everything you've explained in the first message that people are going to get value from. Right, I'm glad that I'm actually going to stop talking, so I need a drink. So I'm going to pass this on to Rob, who's going to look at the future of WhatsApp and show you how actually what's happening now is not what's necessarily going to happen in the future, and there's a lot more on the table.
Thank you, Chris. So it wouldn't be right to have a webinar focused on software without mentioning AI. So what I'm going to describe here is just 3 aspects of how we have or are developing or integrating AI into our services. The first one is how we've integrated ChatGPT into the ProConnect marketing platform, essentially creating a first generation marketing agent. As I described earlier, our customers are interacting with the platform via a browser. which is not dissimilar conceptually from MailChimp. But now we've also integrated ChatGPT to that browser, or to the ProConnect platform, and we integrated the World Wide Web. So customers can now leverage the intelligence and the power of those sources of information from the actual platform itself. So in practice, what that may mean is that from within the platform, you can now literally talk to it in English or any one of 100 languages through a microphone, and it can talk back to you. And you may ask ChatGPT or the ProConnect marketing agent, when do you think I should be sending or configuring my campaign? How should I configure my campaign? What sort of words should I use in my WhatsApp messages? So it will draw on all of that knowledge that we get from these new AI models, such as ChatGPT. The second generation marketing agent is actually going to start delivering campaigns as well. At the moment, we're using it as a source of advice or analysis of the campaign, but the next generation marketing agent will actually deploy the campaign, iterate on the campaign, monitor the campaign, and report back to the administrator of the platform. So I'm going to talk a little bit about voice agents now, and we will be shortly launching the first B2B voice agent. I suspect in the next 4 to 8 weeks. We're working with a buying group, some partners of ours, the Sugro buying group, and a major supplier. Voice agents are now again moving rapidly in terms of their capability. It's essentially the AI mimicking a human voice, and we will wire up whatever intelligence we want that AI agent to have, depending on the use case or the task that we want it to complete. The advantage of the voice agents, they are highly scalable. They will work 24/7, 365 days a year, and they can speak up to 100 languages. So we're just going to show you a short example of a voice agent. In this example, we're going to show you in a moment, is actually mimicking where the voice agent has detected that the customer has not made an order when they would normally make it, and the voice agent is actually making an outbound phone call to the customer.
Hold on, keep talking, Rob. Here we go. Here's the video.
Hi, Rob. This is Stephanie. I just wanted to check in because we noticed you haven't placed your usual order with us. I thought I'd give you a quick call to see if we can help you out and make you get that sorted.
Oh, great. Yeah, I've been rushed off my feet. How do you want to progress this?
Absolutely. I get that. It can get super busy. So how about this? I'll go ahead and just pop your usual order into your basket to make things easy. And while we're here, I'll mention we've got a nice promo on Coca-Cola 24 packs if you're interested. Then once that's all set, we can either finalize it now, or I can call you back at a time that suits you.
Oh, great. Yeah, what's the offer on Coca-Cola?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, because of the warm weather, we've got a special promo on the Coca-Cola 24 packs. They're just €16 per case at the moment, which is a pretty nice deal. So I can add a few of those to your order if you'd like, and then we'll be good to go.
Yeah, I'll take 5 cases.
You got it. I'll add 5 cases of those Coca-Cola packs to your basket, along with your usual order. And once that's all in there, we can either finalize it now if you're ready, or if you prefer, just let me know a time, and I'll give you a call back to finalize everything.
Oh, could you call back tomorrow at 3 o'clock?
Of course, I can do that. Just a quick note, our guaranteed next day delivery cutoff is a little earlier. So to make sure everything's smooth, how about I give you a call back at 2 o'clock instead? That way we'll have plenty of time to get it all sorted for next day delivery. Let me know if that works for you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Awesome. That sounds like a plan. So I'll give you a ring tomorrow at 2 p.m. and we'll get everything finalized for you then. Thanks a lot, Rob. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks. Bye. Just to be clear, there was obviously an American accent there. The accents are now in all sorts of different languages. So English accents are now coming as the next generation. And just to loop that back to the WhatsApp opportunity, the sales agent or the voice agent can be invoked from a WhatsApp message, and it can accept up to 1,000 calls in parallel. So in practice, a WhatsApp message, one of those calls to actions we referred to, could have talk to sales agent, it dials out, and you could have up to 1,000 customer sales conversations happening simultaneously. So the last deployment of AI that we're currently looking at is a very different use case, but again, it is using the scale of WhatsApp. We're working with a global supplier who, at this point, like many suppliers, has to engage with retailers. And at the moment, one of the ways they engage with retailers is by sending sales reps to the actual physical store, where they can check whether their products are on display in accordance or in the way they should do in order to maximize sales. So the supplier has created its own WhatsApp channel and invited the retailers to follow that channel. One of the things they can now do is send a WhatsApp message, and leveraging the WhatsApp flows we talked about earlier, whereby the camera is actually started within the WhatsApp message. The retailer takes a photograph of the products on the shelf. That photograph is sent back to the platform. The platform is wired up to the AI, and the AI is trained to understand exactly what's in the picture. And assuming the AI can confirm that the correct range is on display, or that the labels are facing in the right direction, or that the fridge is stocked correctly with the right product, we can then ship a voucher straight to that retailer, all via WhatsApp, which obviously is happening at a fraction of the cost of physically sending someone to that shop. The consequence being that you might want to send your sales reps to shops that are not demonstrating compliance, as opposed to the shops that are, and therefore making a much more effective use of your field sales function. So, Chris, I think we're back to you. I think we're open for questions.
Yes, so we have got a few questions that come through, but obviously if anybody has any others, please pop them in the chat. One of the easiest ones again that we can answer, Danielle has asked about opt-out function on WhatsApp message. So short answer is yes, but Rob, I know you talk a lot more about this, don't you, to customers? So I don't know if you want to explain the GDPR and the opt-out options and what best practices.
Well, yeah, I think best practice is to always keep the end user, to ensure they have a sense of control over whether they are, initially when they join the channel, they need to explicitly give permission that they want to join the channel. And similarly, we always recommend that on every message, we do have something that provides clear instructions on how they leave. Now, how you do that does depend on the sort of relationship you have with your customers. Our recommendation would be that you have a small message at the bottom of the message that explains, if you type the word stop, you will leave the channel. You can have that function placed on one of the call to action buttons, but in my opinion, that's almost a bit, there's not enough friction there, because clearly you want people on the channel. And so you don't want them to have a mechanism to leave that just involves one click, because they may hit that button by accident. So I would recommend you always show the sign, but make sure there is a little bit of friction, but equally make it clearly viewable as well. And then also, if people do accidentally leave the channel, or they leave the channel and decide they want to rejoin the channel, ensure that there's a mechanism that's very, very simple for them to rejoin. On the WhatsApp registration pages now that we offer, as of this week, actually, there's a very, very clear rejoin button on there as well.
Excellent. And I think another one we have question around sender IDs and also WhatsApp performance alongside SMS. So I can answer the first one around the versus kind of like standard messaging. Some of our customers had actually tracked this. Some of them have actually turned off normal SMS messaging completely after adopting WhatsApp, but a couple of them actually came up with the same result when they were tracking it, that they looked and they'd found that messages and promotions that were sent using WhatsApp were getting a 9% higher engagement rate in terms of click-throughs than they were when they were sent on SMS. So that gives you a bit of an idea. Again, every audience is different. I feel that's a caveat that I should wear on a t-shirt. Sender IDs, though, I mean, I imagine this is an integration question. So Rob, I don't know if you want to talk about that and how you can make sure you're tracking your customer numbers into your system as well. So it's all to do with how everything's set up, isn't it?
Yeah, so is the question around what best practice in terms of?
So I think it's sender ID verified. So I assume this is a question that is asking about, can you track customer numbers versus the customer within?
Yeah, you can. So, I mean, you can, in the simplest form, you can simply accept people onto your WhatsApp channel via them registering via their WhatsApp phone number. But especially from a B2B perspective, we would recommend highly that we combine the account number of the customer within the business with the mobile number. So the way that would work in practice is you would have a platform such as ours. We would upload every single customer number and the details associated with the customer that is in the entire business. And then we create a registration page where the customers are signposted to, where they enter their WhatsApp mobile number and they enter their customer number, which we can then validate against the list that we've got centrally. That then opens up the whole world of or two things. One, it enables us to send segmented messages based on customer profile, customer attributes.
And final question then before we finish. Great question from Michael down here. Do you need a special platform to use WhatsApp API? So we're gonna leave on a good sales message here.
You do, yes. So, such as the ProConnect platform. Thank you very much, Michael. So there are, you can't. The WhatsApp Business API is not a service you can use in isolation. So Michael is absolutely right in asking that. You have dedicated platforms. There are a number of platforms out there in the UK and internationally that is the only way that allows you to leverage the WhatsApp Business API.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining and listening in and asking questions as well. What we will do post event, we'll send out the recording to everyone in case there were audio issues or there were different bits that you wanted to kind of look back on. We'll also send the full copy of the report as well. So this is obviously a presentation version. We'll send the copy for you to have a look at as well. If you do want to get in touch with us, have any questions you want to ask and it pops into your mind, you can always get in touch with Rob, either email or, surprisingly, WhatsApp. You get better engagement with Rob off WhatsApp, so that kind of says it all right. You can also join our own WhatsApp channel by scanning that QR code. I suppose you probably got to do that pretty quickly because the webinar is going to end. But yeah, look, we're always here to talk, whether it's content that would be more likely to be me, or whether it's kind of the back end of how it works, or basically what works best for you. Rob is there and the whole team is always keen to chat. So yeah, please do get in touch. Thank you, everyone.